Welcome to This Explainer. Today we're diving into something really fascinating. We are unpacking a question that has literally puzzled people for millennia. How do we actually figure out what we are supposed to do with our lives? We're going to explore Dr. Gary Meadors' structured framework for navigating complex religious and personal decisions. Think of it as a system designed to cut through all that noise and give you a solid, grounded path forward. Let's get right into it.
To do this, we're going to break down this dense theological blueprint into 5 organized steps: the struggle of discernment, 3 levels of values, a biblical model, the decision-making process, and finally, choosing and taking action.
So, starting with part 1, the struggle of discernment, expectation versus reality.
When you're faced with a tough choice, what's the natural urge? For a lot of folks, it's to just pray and passively wait around for a miraculous, direct answer, right? Like a burning bush, a voice from the sky, or just an undeniable sign. We all want it to be easy. We kind of want the answer handed to us on a silver platter so we don't have to wrestle with the uncertainty.
But here's the thing. Dr. Meadors directly challenges that naive view. He argues that true discernment actually demands a rigorous process of sustained thinking. It's about negotiating Scripture with your daily life. Notice how this totally reframes discernment? It moves it from a purely emotional or mystical experience right into a highly rational one. It literally requires us to actively engage our brains.
Which brings us right to part 2, 3 levels of values, the foundation of discernment.
To really engage in this rational process, you have to know what values are actually driving your decisions. At the absolute foundation of this framework, we have biblical commands. Dr. Meadors calls these ontological, which basically means they are the undeniable oughts that are just non-negotiable. Sitting right above those are community values. These are based on consequences and mutual agreement, which makes them negotiable. And finally, sitting at the very top, we have your personal preferences. These are your individual convictions, and they are highly, highly negotiable.
Let's look at how this actually plays out in the real world. While biblical commands like, say, "Thou shalt not kill," are seen as absolute and non-negotiable across the board, community values are way more localized. For example, maybe a specific church community decides that playing baseball or having a picnic on a Sunday just isn't appropriate for them. But as Dr. Meadors points out, a super stressed-out lawyer might find a Sunday baseball game to be the exact kind of rest they need. So community values are negotiable agreements designed to help a specific group function, but we shouldn't confuse them with absolute, universal command.
Then, further down the hierarchy, we hit personal preferences. Think about the historical debate on teetotalism, complete abstinence from alcohol. Dr. Meadors stresses that these are completely valid, deeply held personal convictions. But, and this is a massive but here, we absolutely must have self-critical awareness. We have to realize these are our personal preferences, and they should never, ever be forced upon others as divine mandates. Actually, deifying a personal preference is a trap, and it causes a ton of unnecessary conflict.
So navigating all these differing values, it requires incredible relational grace. Dr. Meadors highlights this biblical concept of distinguishing between a weaker brother, which is basically someone who is still learning, still growing, and just needs some patience, and what he calls a belligerent Christian. A belligerent Christian is someone who point-blank refuses to grow up, and they actively weaponize their personal preferences to demand conformity from everyone else. Recognizing the difference between those two is absolutely vital for a healthy community.
Okay, let's move on to part 3, a biblical model for cultivating a transformed mind.
How do all these abstract values actually survive the messy, complicated reality of everyday decision-making? Well, operating within a biblical model means cultivating a transformed mind. And what does that actually look like? First off, it means reflecting God's image. Dr. Meadors explicitly notes this means you cannot be a bully. God is not a bully, so his representative shouldn't be either. It also means committing to sustained thinking and interpreting texts in their actual historical context. And crucially, it means prioritizing deep, reasoned wisdom over simple, quick-fix pragmatism. It's not just about what works right now, it's about what's genuinely wise.
Now that our values are meticulously mapped out, we arrive at part 4, the decision-making process and the rational flowchart for evaluating life's difficult choices. This sequence is structured really logically. You always start at step 1. Is there a direct, clear command regarding this decision? If yes, well, the path is easy. You obey. But, as we all know, life is rarely that simple. If no direct command exists, you move to step 2. Study for clarification, keeping an eye out for implied principles. And if it's still gray after that, you move to step 3, actively processing the data through your defined worldview and value set. When direct commands are completely absent, you essentially have to put the decision into a blender with a few vital variables. You filter your options through critical self-awareness to check your own biases. You factor in your human place in life, circumstantial providence, and the counsel of informed people. And you do all of this while maintaining an attitude of prayer. But remember, this isn't about asking for a magic miracle. It's about asking for the wisdom to process all these variables correctly.
The really crucial point here is how drastically these variables can alter what the right choice is for you. For instance, let's say you're deciding whether to become a foreign missionary. That decision changes completely depending on your human place in life, like what if you are suddenly responsible for caring for your aging parents? Or it's impacted by circumstantial providence, things like your own advancing age or maybe severe health limitations. Like Dr. Meadors notes, it might not be wise for someone with severe physical limitations to force a missionary journey simply because they have a strong desire to do it. Our circumstances literally act as a filter for our decisions.
Furthermore, Dr. Meadors highlights the profound importance of truly listening to the counsel of informed people and your community, rather than acting solely on your isolated internal desires. And he points out a pretty hard truth. Most of us are terrible listeners. We hear people, sure, but we don't actually listen to the wisdom they're trying to offer us. Making huge life decisions in a vacuum? Yeah, that's just a recipe for disaster.
Which brings us to our final step, Part 5, choosing and taking action and escaping the loop of indecision.
Eventually, you can't just think forever. You have to make a choice. Dr. Meadors warns against becoming what he humorously calls a Romans 7 water cycle Christian. He refers to Romans 7 as the doobie-doobie-doo chapter of the Bible, where a person basically says, what I want to do, I can't do, and what I don't want to do, I end up doing. It's this state of being completely paralyzed by overanalysis. You're continuously circling the drain, looking at options without ever actually plotting a course of action. People who can't make a decision, he argues, are often way worse off than those who just make a decision and later have to back up and fix it.
But here's the good news. Making a decision doesn't mean it's permanently set in stone forever. A transformed mind embraces the freedom to actively plot a course, but also to periodically review and adjust those choices as life inevitably continues to morph. As we grow and as our circumstances change, our decisions can and absolutely should adapt. This is a living, breathing framework, not a prison sentence.
So as we wrap up this explainer, I want you to consider this. Instead of passively waiting around for an easy answer or some magical sign in the sky, how will deploying this highly structured, rational framework transform your next major life choice? By understanding your values, checking your biases, listening to wisdom, and finally taking action, you can move forward with incredible confidence. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I really hope this framework brings some much-needed clarity to your path ahead.